Hi, I'm Candy Phillips, and I'm here with David Phillips, President of Sustainable Engineering and Design. With all the recent record rainfall and flooding we've been experiencing, what are some suggestions or ideas you have that may improve the drainage conditions?
Just looking at some of the different videos and news conferences that I've seen, I've noticed that a lot of the drainage in some of the older subdivisions that were probably designed with older design standards, design criteria. You'll notice that some of the residential neighborhoods have shallow swale systems where they don't necessarily convey water to an ultimate discharge point, such as a lake system, a dry detention area. So one of the things that I think is important is to try to go in some of these older communities, some of the older roadway systems, to go back and retrofit the systems to one, bring them up to current standards where you're providing the water quality, the necessary treatment that meets the current state drainage stormwater management requirements, and also flood protection, ultimately the flood protection, because we don't want rain coming into our houses. What most people don't realize is during the heavier intense rainstorms, if you get a 3-inch rain storm within a short period of time, usually a half hour, sometimes less, the roads will flood. A lot of the roadways, the local roads, are designed to actually handle and store water temporarily, and then within a short period of time, usually within hours, less than a day obviously, they would drain down into the natural drainage system. The reason for that is a lot of times it's sometimes too cost preventative, or prohibitive rather, to design a system that will just, the roads will be completely dry, the swales will be completely dry. What you can do is go in and look at retrofitting some of the facilities to reduce some of the existing impervious areas. Impervious areas include your houses, anything where the water would actually drain or fall from the sky, hit a building, parking lot, your driveways, sidewalks, anything where it would sheet away. Those are considered impervious areas. As you could probably imagine, in a city or a highly urbanized area, the larger rainstorm events would sheet more water away, and so that's something that if you could reduce that amount of area, that would help. Some of the, examples to help addressing the situation is, one is the retrofit of the existing system, reducing the impervious areas, but also go in and look at some other alternatives, such as bioswales. You can actually design swale systems to where instead of draining into a curb inlet or a curb and gutter that you would mainly see in parking lots and roadways, if you drain that water into a swale system, one, you're actually getting better water quality as far as treatment. You're not dumping that directly into the canals, ditches, lakes, streams. Ultimately, everything goes to the ocean. So, creating these bioswales, rain gardens are also something that you may hear more about. People are starting to do. Rainwater harvesting systems, actually capturing the rainwater and using that to help supplement some of your potable water for flushing toilets, supplementing some of your irrigation needs, and that'll ultimately help reduce the amount of water you're extracting from the aquifer. So those are some of the things that I would recommend.
Can you talk about low impact development as it relates to existing and new development projects?
Sure. Low impact development's pretty similar to some of the items I mentioned. Ultimately, you want to design your projects a little different than the way we've been designing projects over the past 50 to 100 years. Conventional land development is you would clear your property first, put a strip mall, some kind of a shopping center, wrap it with a bunch of parking lots, and put a small little drainage system in place to help minimize the drainage or the stormwater from backing up into your project. Now you need to really think a little smarter as far as, some of our resources as far as, for this exercise, water, it's such a premium. I mean, you go to other places in the country and sometimes even in the world where there's no water that falls down from the sky, and just letting it hit the impervious area, sheet flow into the rivers and streams, there's a large percentage that typically just dumps directly into the rivers and oceans. And it would be nice to capture some of that water, try to utilize that, reduce the demand from our municipal water system. One, you're paying for it. If you can capture it from the sky, that's less that you have to pay for. And the aquifer, I mentioned the aquifer previously. There's some places where you have to get permits to withdraw from an aquifer, and there's some aquifers that are polluted as far as you can't use the water for drinking water. Some aquifers, they're very limited as far as the ability to extract water from an aquifer. So sooner or later, we're going to realize how finite a resource water is. And low impact development is one of the items that I see is important for designers and professionals and developers to start designing their facilities in a way where you can design parking lots that include shading. So for your patrons to have shaded areas, whether it's through trees, garages of some sort, and possibly in lieu of using asphalt pavement, you can use concrete or some kind of lighter coating that would tend to reflect the heat away as opposed to absorb it. Cities or counties, you can utilize gravel parking lot. Some of the codes don't allow that, so you can look at other alternatives such as the pervious concrete and the pervious pavement that I mentioned. Landscaping is critical. Plant trees, one in the right place, not under power lines. Be sensitive to the proximity of larger trees that are close to structures. Living in Florida, we have hurricanes, so you want to be careful that trees don't hit the structures. But at the same point, having a tree fairly close to a building in certain locations, southern exposure, western exposure, can help provide shading, which would reduce your heat load inside your house, would help improve your air condition, not running as long as probably normal. So those are some of the elements as far as low impact development external to the building. Once you get with your architect or your planner, you can work inside your facility. Rainwater harvesting, touched on that a little bit. That's really critical. I mean, you can use a rainwater system as small as rain barrels. If you're a homeowner, you put a rain barrel at each gutter location to your house. You can use that to water a small herb garden. If you're not a gardener and you have a small water feature, a little pond of some sort, you're going to need some makeup water for that to replenish that. The other thing that you can use if you have a swimming pool. Here in Florida, we have a high evaporation rate, and we have a tendency where you have to use makeup water, whether it's well water, which typically requires some chemicals and some additives you have to add to your pool to counteract the chemical makeup of your pool water, whereas rainwater typically works out really well, and you can use that as makeup water too. So there's a lot of things that you can use the rainwater system, harvesting system for. So I think briefly touching on low impact development, those are some of the minor components that we've seen on some of our developments of our project.
Thank you very much, David Phillips. And what's the name of your company?
Sustainable Engineering and Design.